Tim was on the original panel that we presented this at DragonCon. Unfortunately, he's not, he wasn't able to be a part of this video, but the example that he gave for us was the character lineup from Chosen, courtesy of Floyd County. This lineup is from the pre-production artwork for Chosen. Now, over time, these characters change. Of course, when you're a studio, you have to work with an external client sometimes. You're working with a much bigger group, and oftentimes the opinions of the team also influence the development of the design.
It's a much slower process. What they'll do is they'll give you a certain parameter of descriptions of the characters, and then whoever in the studio is chosen as the preliminary artist will be taken on, they'll do the artwork, and then stuff is sent off into the networks for approval. Now, this process can take months, but eventually...
In worst case scenarios.
In worst case scenarios, it can take months. But if you're on your own team in an independent project, that sort of stuff, you can get that feedback really quickly. So when you're on a small indie team, things can happen a lot quicker. Versus with a studio team, it doesn't work that way.
As a counterpoint, though, it is completely possible that when you have a small indie team, the temptation is there to keep massaging the design, because no one else's money or time is on the table. You can just keep playing, and you have to know when to say, all right, that's good enough. We can stop now. So here's an example of those chosen designs once they actually got their final approval for production. As you can see, the designs changed around, and they all kind of fit into a unified style now. And one of the things Tim was really great at pointing out at our panel is that these designs are a lot more feasible for animation, especially using the system Floyd uses, which is essentially puppets.
So the process that we've cobbled together out of a bunch of different resources has come down to 3 questions. And the 3 questions are what we use to really help us figure out who a character is. When we have no real clue where we're going to go, this is a great way for anybody who has an idea for a character but doesn't really know who that character is to really find out more about who and what that character is, what they want, what they need, and if they have, and then what they look like. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so our process essentially boils down into 3 questions that you have about your character. And we call them the want, the need, and the secret. And these are 3 aspects of your characters, basically their psychological makeup, that drive them through the story and help determine where they'll end up at the end of the story. And first off, we have the want. And a great example of it that we have here is Woody from Toy Story. And the want is sort of their day-to-day conscious goal or desire that they have. So in the case of Woody really wants to be Andy's favorite toy. And, pretty much all of his decisions on the outside appear to be driven by this need to sort of reinforce his place as Andy's favorite toy.
The need lies beneath the want. So the want is the everyday motivation. The need is what the character needs to fulfill their arc. So if your character is on their deathbed or sitting down and they're thinking, they're going to have that epiphany and they're going to realize what is it that your character needs. For example, Walter White from Breaking Bad, sure, his want is to leave his family money. So, after he passes, they can go on. But however, his need is actually deeper than that. His need is actually power and recognition. And unfortunately, Walt doesn't really realize that until too late. And sometimes the need is fulfilled and sometimes it's not. That's what separates a heroic character from a tragic character.
And on the last level is the secret. Think of the want and the need as separate layers. The want is the very surface. It's what we show each other on the outside. The need is what we know internally. And the secret is what we protect. So the secret, and sometimes characters don't even know what the secret is, but ultimately the secret can either help or hinder someone fulfilling their need. A great example of this is Ron Weasley from the Harry Potter series. Ron has a serious problem with always feeling like he's in the shadow of someone. And that especially comes to light in the later books when he really feels like he's always in the shadow of not only his brothers, but his best friend. And he comes very close to having that secret, which in some cases he doesn't even really realize is there, brought forward and ultimately almost harms his entire relationship and the safety of himself and his friends because he can't keep that in check. Now he becomes a hero because he can keep that in check. but
and overcomes it really.
and overcomes it really. Yeah.
He realizes he can put it aside, and there's bigger fish to fry than his own ego.
Yep.
Yeah.